Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Hannah and this is a very special video because it is the first day of Vlognukah. Ooh, what is Vlognukah? I hear you asking. It's not really caught on in the same way that Vlogmas has, and that's fine. But basically Vlognukah is a series that I created a few years ago when I was like, I want to join in on Vlogmas, but also I'm Jewish and also 24 videos, that's too much work. And so for Vlognukah, for the 8 days of Hanukkah, or the 8 nights of Hanukkah, shall we say, there will be 8 videos. I was doing this every year on the Hannah Witton channel, and now it's going to be over here. Also, if you are looking for Jewish Hanukkah religious related content, I can't provide that for you. It's literally just 8 videos over 8 days during the 8 nights of Hanukkah, and also I happen to be a Jew. I think in the first ever Vlognukah series I did, which was 2016, there were a couple of videos about Hanukkah, about making latkes, about how I feel about religion. But now that we've covered those topics, I'm just like, I literally have nothing more to say on the subject. Other than I love Hanukkah, I love my family, food is great. So this video, as you can tell from the title, is about my favourite books from 2019. Now, these aren't all books that came out in 2019, they are just books that I have read in 2019. I have most of them here. I think we have 10 on the list, and some I read on Kindle and some I listened to. So we have a nice little mixture. But these are my faves from the year. And also, these books are in no particular order because I couldn't do it. We have Educated by Tara Westover. This is a memoir about Tara's childhood in the Mormon church, but more specifically in her family. Her dad was quite extreme and fundamentalist, thought the world was going to end. She didn't have a birth certificate. He didn't trust the education or the medical systems. Yeah, it's about her childhood and how she got out and got educated. And it's so beautifully written, and she has so much understanding and compassion for people who caused her a lot of pain and put her in some quite dangerous situations, and she's just full of love and understanding, and I'm like, wow, you're a good person. But this book is truly stunning. Next, we have one that I read on Kindle, and that is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I adored this book. It's about Evelyn Hugo, who is an old Hollywood glam actress star, and she is an old lady now, and a journalist goes to interview her about her life and about the 7 husbands that she had and what was really going on there. Ooh, scandal, ooh, intrigue. But it is a beautiful story about fame, about love, about bisexuality, and I will say the one downside of this book is that the chapters that are narrated by the journalist are just a bit crap. Like, her character is just, what? Like, those bits are just not written well at all. I don't understand how they can be poorly written, and then the chapters that are Evelyn telling her story are just stunning. Maybe it's just like the character isn't like fleshed out enough, but it was tricky because like the first few chapters is only from the journalist's perspective, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna give up on this book. But I'm so glad I persevered because the Evelyn chapters, which is most of it, mwah, 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 it's so good. It's so good. I finally read Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This has been on my TBR for years, just sitting on my shelf, and I was either going to read it this year or it had to go because it was just torturing me. But I am so glad that I finally picked it up and read it. The reason why I did was because I read the first chapter of it as part of the read the first chapter of a bunch of books challenge tag thing, and this is the one that caught my attention the most out of all of those ones that I read, so I immediately started reading the whole thing. The book is about Ifemelu, who is Nigerian, but she moved to the States to go to college there, and she's been living there for years, but has decided to go back home to Nigeria. And the book also tells the story of her childhood love, Obeens, and I'm getting that pronunciation wrong again. I swear someone corrected me on my last video where I mentioned this, and I can't find the comment, and I'm really sorry. But her boyfriend, her childhood boyfriend, it also tells his story. He stayed in Nigeria, but then went to England and was having immigration problems. And it kind of flicks back and forth between their present day lives of him being really successful again in Nigeria and her like leading up to coming back home and all of her thoughts and feelings about that, and their childhood, how they got together, how their love blossomed. And then, you know, she comes home and you see what happens. It's stunningly written. I feel like I learned a lot about Nigeria, a lot about the experience of being an immigrant or like moving away from home and that pull to home and what home is. Stunning. Stunning. Another one of my favorite books from 2019, which I listened to on Audible, is Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. I think that's how you say his name. This book messed me up in so many ways, but also was very comforting because I have a lot of crises about the meaning of life and why humans are the way that they are and what is even the point. And I feel like from a weird historical perspective, this book confirmed a lot of those panics that I have, but like in a really nice way. But this book was so fascinating. The way he talks about imagined orders, so religions, nations, ideologies, groups, communities, like all of these things, like as humans, we imagine structures, we make things up in order to survive, in order to communicate, in order to work together. I love that approach. I think that, to me, makes a lot of sense in how I view the world. It's a great book. Would recommend listening to it as well because, oh, it's a big one. It's a fat book. Some more fiction. I read An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. I waited for this to come out in paperback so I could read it because I much prefer paperbacks, but I loved it so much that I might have to get the hardback of the sequel because I don't know if I can wait another year until then the paperback comes out. Like, this was so brilliant. It's kind of like sci-fi and a commentary on fame and social media. The main character, April, basically discovers these aliens and then she becomes like the figurehead of this global movement. There's lots of mystery and intrigue and adventure. The characters are all fantastic. A literal page turner. I feel like because I often read a lot of non-fiction isn't really a page turner. And so I'm always very grateful for when I pick up a fiction book where I'm just like, and like, oh, just have to figure out what happens next. It was just a joy to read. I reread Northern Lights by Philip Pullman. I don't really reread things that often, but this was so fun to reread. And I keep so many books on my shelf that mean so much to me that I loved reading the first time round that I'm like, why not reread them? The main reason is because there are so many new books that I haven't read yet that I need to experience. But this was a nice little ease-in confirmation for me that rereading is just as valuable as discovering a new book. Obviously, I decided to read it again to prepare myself for His Dark Materials, the BBC HBO show that is out now, which is so good. Oh, I am loving it. I feel like I don't need to give you like a plot summary of this, but one of the great things about reading it again was all of the really anti-religious stuff, like about the magisterium. When I was younger reading it, I didn't quite clock it. Like I understood it was there, but I remembered it being more subtle than it was. And so reading it this time around, I was like, oh, it is not subtle at all. And there were so many plot points that I'd forgotten happened. So it really was like reading it for the first time again. This is the only physical copy of the series that I have. So I'm going to go out and get a Subtle Knife and Amber Spyglass as well. But it'll be a shame because it won't be like as old as this one. This is one that I read because all of my friends were reading it and I like wanted to be in on that conversation. That's kind of why I read a lot of books, is because of recommendations from friends. That's a great reason. But it's Circe by Madeline Miller. This is unlike anything that I've ever read before. Circe is a goddess She's the daughter of Helios, who is the sun, and it's all like based on like Greek mythology. She lives for like hundreds, thousands of years, you know, like she's immortal. And so the way that time passes in the book is just like so different from anything that has humans as like the main character that you're following. But basically she gets accused of being a witch and she gets banished from like the heavens where the gods are, and she has like her own secluded island that she is banished to. And then, you know, she is a witch and she like learns all of her witchy potions and like powers and stuff. She does go off on adventures and she meets people, and there are other characters that kind of like come in and out, but most of the book you're just like with her, you're in her head. It's beautifully written. It's not really one of those books where like you really warm to the main character. She's just who she is, and it's like take it or leave it. This was such an interesting, lovely read. One of my faves. Next is another one that I listened to on Audible, and it's The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. This was so funny, so much fun. The main descriptor that I would give it is a jolly bisexual romp. It's set in the 18th century, I think. The King of France is still alive, so it must be like pre-French Revolution. And it's about Monty, who is the son of an English aristocrat, and him and his best friend and his sister are going on tour, which basically means their gap year before they start uni. He's also a massive disappointment to his father because his dad keeps on catching him in bed with boys. Ooh, scandalous. But Monty is also in love with his best friend Percy, who he's going on this tour with and traveling around with. But that's a secret. Ooh. But basically, things don't go to plan and they go off on an adventure and all sorts of shenanigans happen. But it's so funny. It's so brilliantly written. The characters, you just love all of them, of the three like teenagers. Ugh, lots of adventure, lots of mystery and intrigue. Some of the romantic sexy moments, whew, did they get me hot and bothered. There's like one scene that is literally just a kiss, like it's a makeout session, but it is so well written. I was just like, oh, wow. Whew, if you want to get a bit hot and flustered whilst, you know, reading about a jolly bisexual romp around Europe, this is your book. On a completely different note, but also YA, I finally read Only Ever Yours by Louise O'Neill. I adore Louise O'Neill, and I believe this was her first book, and it's just been sat on my shelf for years and I've never read it, but finally got round to it. It is dark, it is depressing, it tortured me enough that it gave me hope, and then just took it right away again. Isn't that like something that President Snow says in the Hunger Games, that is like the true way to like control people, is to give them hope and then take it away? This is what this book did to me. It's dystopian fiction. Some kind of shit has happened to the earth. It sounds like the climate crisis really like fucked us over, and so wiped out most of humanity. And they live in this school, the Eves, and they are designed women. So women aren't born biologically. The Eves are designed to be beautiful and to be willing and to serve. And the main character, Frida, is part of the final years of Eves in the school, which means that the ceremony is happening soon, and they get picked by the men into 3 categories. Either there'll be a companion, a concubine, or a chastity. You know, your classic Madonna whore complex. It's about Frida. It's about her friendship with Isabel, one of the other girls, who's like suddenly acting all mysterious, and you're like, what's going on? It's like a huge popularity contest at the school because they get like ranked on how beautiful they are. It's a lot. I still can't get over it because a little part of me was just like, oh, maybe Louise will give me a happy ending. Maybe like this will work out. Like I got invested enough. I was like, oh, really, Hannah? What? It's Louise O'Neill. It's obviously gonna end badly. And finally, we have A Curious History of Sex by Kate blister. This actually isn't out until February 2020. This is a proof copy of it. I'm very happy to have received. I also technically haven't finished it, but I am recording this before the end of the year, so I have time. It's the history of sex, which is just my jam. This is what fascinates me. This is my life source, the history of sex. It's just so damn interesting and funny sometimes. This book has so many sexual puns in it, so many historical slang phrases and words for different sex acts and body parts. I mean, just for that, it is very enjoyable and hilarious. In this chapter, she's talking about language around the vulva. And so she's talking about clitoris and then also the C word, cunt. I mean, this is supposed to be my brand friendly channel, but here we go. We've already dropped the C bomb. But she says, our favourite potty-mouthed aristocrat, John Wilmot, 2nd Earl of Rochester, names one of the characters in his book Clitoris, and Clitoris is apparently the maid of honour, and she regularly brings her queen, who is called Cuntagratia, to orgasm. And that's just brilliant. That is just brilliant. When was that written? In 1689, there was some erotic fiction out there, and one of the characters in it was called Clitoris, and one of them was called Cuntagratia. So even though I've not finished it, this is definitely gonna be a favourite of 2019. We did it! Yay! Thanks so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and let me know in the comments what your favourite books that you read in 2019 were. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell because it's Vlognukah, which means there's another video coming your way tomorrow and every day after that for 8 days. Yes, that's right. You are going to be getting content from me over Christmas. You're welcome. But it's also over Hanukkah. So just saying. Hope you're relaxing. Hope you're having a great time. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Oh, also I'm going to leave the link to my Goodreads page in the description. And you can go add me as a friend or follow me over there.